Struggling farmer helps a city girl start her car. He never expected she was the daughter of a tech billionaire. The rain had been falling since dawn, turning the dirt road into a thick ribbon of mud. Daniel's boots were soaked through, his hands numb from the cold, but the plow still needed to be fixed before the next planting. His farm had been in the family for 3 generations, yet the last 2 years had been brutal. Crops failed, debts piled up, and each morning he woke with the same heavy knot in his chest, wondering if this would be the year he lost everything. As he walked back from the shed, head bowed against the wind, the growl of an unfamiliar engine struggling to start caught his attention. There, at the side of the road, sat a sleek black car, its glossy finish sharply out of place against the weather-beaten landscape. Inside, a young woman gripped the steering wheel, frustration etched across her face. She looked like someone who belonged in a glass-walled office or a fashion magazine, not stranded in the middle of nowhere. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the way one small act can change a life forever, please take a moment right now to like this video, leave a comment, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Royal Stories, because today's story is one you'll never forget. Daniel's first instinct was to keep walking. He didn't have time for strangers, not with everything hanging by a thread. But something about the way she sat there, glancing at her phone like she was losing hope, made him stop. Her hair was damp from the rain, and she wore a cream-colored coat that was now speckled with mud. Rolling up his sleeves, Daniel stepped closer and tapped the window. She lowered it just enough to speak, explaining in a rushed tone that her car wouldn't start and there was no cell signal in the area. Her voice had a polished city lilt, the kind that made Daniel feel his calloused hands and worn jacket even more out of place. Still, he nodded, popped the hood, and leaned in to check. The engine was flooded. He asked her to try the ignition again while he adjusted a few things. After several stubborn coughs, the car finally roared to life. She smiled then, warm, genuine, and thanked him as if he'd just saved her from disaster. She introduced herself as Emily, saying she was just passing through on her way to see her father. Daniel simply wished her a safe trip and turned back toward his farm. But something about her stayed in his mind long after the sound of her engine faded into the rain. There had been a flicker in her eyes, a mix of gratitude and curiosity, that made him wonder if their paths would cross again. The following week was another uphill battle for Daniel. The bank had sent a final notice. He had 30 days to pay off a portion of his debt or the farm would be repossessed. He'd been trying to sell some equipment, but there were no buyers in a struggling town. Each night he lay awake listening to the rain tapping against the tin roof, wondering if he should give up. He had already sold his father's old truck to cover last season's losses. His mother's voice still echoed in his mind from years ago, "This land is our legacy, Daniel. Promise me you'll hold on." He had promised, but now that promise felt like a chain pulling him under. One gray afternoon, a black SUV pulled into his driveway. He recognized Emily the moment she stepped out, now dressed in a sharp navy coat and boots that gleamed even in the mud. But she wasn't alone. An older man with silver hair and a confident stride joined her. His presence was magnetic, the kind that filled a room before he even spoke. Emily introduced him as her father, Richard, and before Daniel could even piece together why they were there, Richard extended a hand and thanked him for helping his daughter. It turned out Emily had told her father the entire story, how a stranger had gone out of his way to help her without expecting anything in return. Richard owned one of the largest tech companies in the country. Daniel was stunned when Richard explained they were looking to invest in sustainable, small-scale farms to supply organic produce to urban markets. Emily had suggested starting with Daniel's land. The offer was almost too good to believe: financial backing, debt relief, and a partnership that would keep the farm in his hands. Daniel hesitated, wary of strings attached, but Richard assured him this was no charity. They wanted someone with integrity, someone who knew the value of hard work. And Emily, she just smiled, as if she had known all along this meeting was meant to happen. The months that followed were nothing short of transformative. With Richard's investment, Daniel repaired his equipment, upgraded his irrigation, and hired help from the local community. Slowly, the farm began to thrive again. Fields that had once been choked with weeds now stretched in neat, vibrant rows. The market stalls in the city began selling his produce, and his name became known not just locally, but in circles he had never dreamed of entering. And through it all, Emily visited often, sometimes under the pretense of business, sometimes just to walk with him along the fields at sunset. Yet, even in the good days, Daniel never forgot the weight of the bad ones. He knew how easily life could turn, how quickly the ground beneath your feet could shift. And perhaps that's why he cherished every moment, every sunrise over the fields, every shared laugh with Emily as they brushed mud off their boots. What had begun as a simple act of kindness on a rainy day had grown into a lifeline, for both of them. Emily confessed one evening that she had been feeling lost before meeting him, disconnected from anything real. In his world of dirt, sweat, and honest labor, she had found something she didn't even know she was searching for. Years later, standing at the edge of the same road where they first met, Daniel thought about the irony of it all. He had been ready to give up, convinced he had nothing left to offer. And yet, by helping a stranger, he had unknowingly planted the seed of his own second chance. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories, and don't forget to leave a comment. Your words mean more than you know, and they help keep these stories alive for others to hear. Special request to comment: what would you have done if you were in Daniel's place that rainy day?